Hello, and welcome to the Argyle CFO Leadership Forum. My name is Brittany Sullivan with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have some important information to share with you, and then we will turn the floor over to our esteemed opening keynote speaker. We also welcome you to stay socially connected during today's event. For those of you who are active tweeters, please use the hashtag ArgyleDigital and follow us on Twitter at ArgyleExecForum. Also, be sure to follow Argyle on LinkedIn for special announcements. I would also like to take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we have curated based on the feedback we have received over the years from our members. We have worked closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints during the session today, and we truly appreciate our members' support of this policy. Finally, and most importantly, we would love to hear from you. So during each session, we encourage you to submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box on your screen. Following each presentation, we have set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on your questions. Thank you again for joining us. Now let's get started. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Patricia Tatro, Consulting CFO, Technology Industry, National Outsourcing Leader at CLA. We're excited to have Patricia with us for her opening keynote titled The Future of FP&A, Strategizing for Growth and Strengthening Forecast Accuracy. Welcome, Patricia, and over to you.
Thank you, Brittany. So first of all, thank you so much, Brittany and Argyle, for inviting me to be a part of this today. Technology and FP&A are two areas I'm very passionate about and have lots of opinions on. So hopefully I can share some things that will add to the content for the rest of today's agenda. My background, I've been in accounting and finance for over 25 years. I've worked in multiple industries, from startup companies to Fortune 500, including GE, Pactiv, Mrs. Smith's Bakeries. So wide range of experience. But I've always, even in those roles, been very interested in what tech can do to help each company and their needs, and often got involved in various system implementations, trying to improve those processes. Today, I work at CLA, Clifton Larson Allen. It's a professional services firm, top 8 accounting firm in the United States, and they offer wealth advisory, outsourcing, audit, tax, and consulting. I lead our technology industries outsourcing practice, and I have the privilege of working with many businesses who are doing everything from starting up new software to planning for an exit after some amount of years. So it's been really wonderful for me to be able to focus so much energy in a space I love so much. I thought we could start today off with just, everyone says FP&A is important. Financial planning and analysis, it helps you, understand your business today and plan for tomorrow. Well said, quote here from the CFO of Alphabet, as Google. So just kind of set stage for today. When we think of all the different reasons we use FP&A, it really comes down to what are we trying to get out of it? We're trying to plan, we're trying to make strategic decisions. And with the resources we have today, we really can work on more of a heads up approach rather than a heads down. We have so many improvements in, the tools that can automate, increase efficiency and accuracy. It can let us do that. So when you're thinking about, metrics and KPIs, or being able to change quickly to a new environment, we have tools today that can help, and we just need to embrace them and look for ways to help our businesses get out of the mundane work and more into preparing for the future. So as part of building towards that strategic thinking, I wanted to focus on a few different areas. So first of all, one of my favorite topics is automation and data analytics. Everyone's hearing about AI. It's in headlines every day, and it's way bigger than ChatGPT, even though among its many wonderful things it can do, I found it to be a wonderful research assistant. I think of a startup business that is trying to build their first set of projections and financial models. They don't have a lot of information. They have a resource to get some details to help them. We all know it's not guaranteed to be accurate, and it's data is currently, limited to 2021. However, that's not the only AI out there, but there's lots of great tools that we can use. So what are we using AI for in predictive analytics? It's to forecast financial outcomes into different scenarios, is to understand our risks and our opportunities, and quite honestly, just to make more informed decisions. We're seeing automation move away from Excel spreadsheets, and there's a lot of limits there and risk of data loss. Even though I use Excel every day, I really love it. We know that it has a certain place in our business, and then other tools can just do a much quicker, better job. Some of the examples of automation that I really think of, that I think most people here could relate to, is if you think of accounts payable. Many people have worked. I started my career in accounts payable many years ago. I remember entering in an invoice and data, all of those keystrokes, all of that. Well, there's super tools today. Basically, you upload the PDF image, it's going to automatically put all of it in there. You still need a human to review it for reasonableness, but it's longer the days where you have to enter that manually. If you're doing that in your business today, reach out to me. I will give you some great ideas to stop doing that. But that's one great way. Reporting is another one. We can get reporting so much quicker. We can include, important metrics. We can design inside of Fathom. That's a reporting tool that a lot of people connect with QuickBooks Online. You can create your standard set of reports. You know what management needs to look like, needs to see. You can compare it to, targets, goals, prior period, benchmarking, lots of great things you can do with that. And the best part of these automation is it reduces errors. And again, you get it much faster. Cloud-based solutions, we've heard cloud-based, that's not new, but we're seeing companies utilize this more and more. COVID really brought a lot of that to light for businesses. But it really helps us to have real-time collaboration, easier access to financial data. We're not worried where it's stored. And if you have the right data security in place, you don't need to be concerned with your information being on the cloud. So that's just part of one of the things you should review when you're talking about systems. Now, this one's kind of messy. I just grabbed a sample dashboard from Intact, Sage Intact. That's another software solution, cloud-based, that many companies have used. So when you see this, you have to think about your dashboard for your company would be based on things that you want to see. And when I talk about metric-based insights, let me just take a minute to explain what I mean by that. That is key performance indicators, or KPIs, other metrics to drive performance and make informed decisions. So if you can automate this and you can have a dashboard like this, either real time or almost real time, you would be able to say, okay, what's important to my business? Is it my cash? Is it my profit margin, number of customers, new orders? Whatever you care about can be on that dashboard, and you can start working towards measuring how are you against the goal you had for that month, that year, that week, what have you. But some common KPIs people like to look at are revenue growth, profit margin, return on investment, and cash flow. But honestly, every industry has its own set of KPIs that are significant, and every company does too, because of the way they're run. So I don't recommend saying, okay, I want all the KPIs that I can find, and I want it on a dashboard. Nobody will look at it. Find the 5-10 things that really matter to your business and look at those. And maybe you start with a smaller number, add a few, but come back later, in a month, a year, quarter, and say, what is this the data I want to see? Does this make sense? Is it helping me make decisions? I have a story about, and this is before automation, but I worked with a company that would constantly add reports to their month-end package. And they never took the time to say, do I still need it? So a monthly report package was a good 2 inches thick, because they were printing back then, and nobody asked, do we need it? So after they distributed this monthly, I went out and started finding out what's really needed. Well, it turns out there's just a few reports that people really needed to see. So don't keep adding, because then you'll reduce the importance of what you care about. Um, but you can now have it in electronically, quicker, and with the information that means the most to you. Another thing that we're seeing, in FP&A is how important it is to be able to change. Adaptability and agility are very, very important. We know that the business environment today is quickly changing. It's not like just your company has access to quick data. Your customers do, your competitors do. It really does force you to be able to change like that. And so when we put these tools out here, then we have the ability to say, can I make this change? We hear something going on. We can quickly do a use case scenario. We can put in a financial model, if we make this particular change in staffing or a revenue stream, what that might look like for our company and what risks are involved. So, the co-CEO of SAP and Jeff Bezos both had quotes to these that I thought I'd share. Agility is not an option anymore. It's a necessity. And adaptability is key in a fast changing business environment. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. It doesn't mean we should always change fast, but it means we want to be able to do that. And when we're looking at our metrics, when we're looking at using the tools that we have, we can make better decisions and decide. And if we have financial models built where we can easily create new scenarios or measure, the return on investment if we do a capital investment, these aren't long processes. It used to take much longer to understand that information. Now it can happen so quickly, but informed when you make those decisions and those changes to your business. All of this also, it really builds collaboration. And I think that is so very important if we want to have a successful company. It improves not only the data we get, it improves the happiness, the job satisfaction of the people involved. The voices of your different departments are being heard, and it's happening quickly. And some of the things to consider. So if FP&A is working with sales, there's good collaboration about sales trends, market conditions, customer behavior, ways to improve the sales forecast and financial planning, discussions on sales, what drives sales, which goes right into marketing sometimes, because sometimes that marketing spend is a big driver, but we can start doing some analysis to understand what is our customer acquisition cost. We're working together. Those three areas, FP&A, sales, marketing, we're all talking to each other. Because we do want to make sure, if we say we want to try a new marketing idea, what is that going to cost us? Based on the research we've done, what do we think we're going to get for that? And really try to make an informed decision. In operations, you're going to see FP&A working with those operation teams, looking for cost savings opportunities. It'll be easier to do that analysis. I mean, it already is easier. It's just going to get more and more easier. But we want to optimize resource allocation. We want to improve financial performance all the way around. And having those discussions just becomes easier and hopefully more fun. And, people feel valued. In IT, you can think about FP&A wants to make sure that the data we're getting is accurate. We want to continuously look for new ways to get to use all the capabilities available, within reason. Again, go back to the ROI on spending, but to understand what's possible. So you work with the people that are in the industry, who specialize in IT, work with them. You can easily do some research on the new tools coming out and try to see if that's a good fit for your business, understanding the software you already use. HR. So we want to be able to collaborate with HR. Maybe we're doing staffing plans, or we're doing a scenario that says, okay, maybe we want to hire a new executive team member or another salesperson or whatever the role we think we need. We can collaborate with HR, understand the cost of that, put that information into our scenario model and come back and say, is this the right decision? Is it the right time? If not, when should it be? And then, collaborating on what all of these decisions are how they're going to impact our cash. How will it look today? How will it look in 6 months, a year, and beyond? All of these decisions, especially thinking capital spending. How long is it going to take to get that money back? What's the value for the business? But it helps, I think, of smaller businesses when I say this, but it's good for bigger as well. That cash planning, I've seen smaller businesses measure cash based on what's in their bank account. That might work for a little while, but that's not a great way to understand how the decisions you make today are going to impact you in the future. So you can put all of that in. You can easily add cash, a cash flow forecast to that model and be able to say, all right, I want to hire these people. This is what cash will look like, or this is what I need to do to increase sales to reach break even. Again, collaborate among the departments. If we come up with what we need, we've got to go back to sales and say, what do you need to make that happen? Is that even possible? Is there demand in the market? But these conversations are happening full circle. I'm working with a client now on a budget, and I think we're trying to create a schedule, but we have to pause constantly and say, we want to regroup. Okay, we want this team and this team to talk. We don't want sales to tell a department lead what they're going to need. We want it to be a collaborative experience that everyone's involved in. So there's constantly the stop, regroup, look at it, and then put it all together. Real-time based collaboration is definitely something very easy to see in all kinds of ways. We've already talked a little bit about the cloud-based FP&A tools. We understand that's going to help with financial planning, budgeting, forecasting. Everyone has access, if they should have access, to the same data, the models. We can make changes together. We can see the impact of those changes immediately. Video conferencing, that's how we're here today, right? But a lot of companies today are spread out across the country, across the world. Being able to use video in those conversations really, really helps people feel that closeness. And I think that it does increase collaboration, and it is better than the days when that was just a phone call. Being able to see each other, see the reactions, it's powerful and very much something that I think is not going to go away. Unfortunately, sometimes I see it utilized when people are in offices next to each other. However, it still is a great tool. We're going to have real-time access to dashboards, like I showed you that one example. It doesn't have to be as big and messy as that. It can be very, very simple, but being able to, see those numbers anytime we need to, because most information can be posted almost automatically. Our month-end close processes are not as extensive as they used to be because, except for small adjustments, it's pretty automatic. Instant messaging tools, that is, think about Slack or Teams chat or whatever you might use. I know we have email. However, I think those that have embraced instant messaging realize that it does create a more casual way to connect with each other. The more we're getting to know each other that way, the quicker we're going to respond to each other. And in that, that helps, again, satisfaction of your employees. It helps drive better results. Definitely helps in the FP&A, the analysis and planning for your business. And then, the collaborative editing tools. And sorry, I'm not going the order of my slides totally, but I personally love making a financial model in Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel and having multiple users in there at the same time working on the data. It becomes a tool that everyone is aware of how to use it. Maybe I would help with some of the connections because, again, some of those things are still based in Excel with its limitations. However, not everything needs to be in a big, new, amazing tool. So when appropriate, we can do that collaboration. It might not be a spreadsheet. It might be a presentation or a Word document, or, well, you know what I'm saying, all kinds of things. But we have that ability today. We can see who's working on it at the same time. We can have that going while we're on a video chat, all kinds of uses, and it creates better information, more engagement from everybody, and real-time results. And I think about in the past when everyone got emailed their version, add your information, then somebody had to put it all together. That was not utilizing any efficiencies. It was kind of horrible, in my opinion. But at the time, we didn't have a better option. So we had to have it that way. We don't need to do that anymore. If your company is still emailing spreadsheets or other data back and forth, editing and returning, I really encourage you to use those editing tools to be collaborative. And trying to put all this together, and again, the rest of today's agenda will hit a little deeper than I am, but what does strategic thinking look like in FP&A? We're going to be able to analyze trends. We're going to be able to we're going to be able to create scenarios. I mentioned that in the forecast or financial modeling. This to me is one of the best ways to have great conversation. If I can put something in a scenario model, whether it's in a new forecasting tool or even in Excel, but when I can put in the new facts, share the results, talk about the risks that's involved in that decision making, or what advantages might come if we do make this change we're considering, it is one of the best ways to be strategic using these kinds of thoughts and these tools. I think that some great examples, and I mentioned before, for sure it's staff planning, for sure it's capital spending, but it really goes on to new marketing, any piece of the business, new software. You put it in these scenarios and you can create different decisions. Also, it can help you if you might build a budget, one scenario that you plan, that's what you think is going to happen, but you might want to know what happens if we see an increase, big growth that we didn't expect. If we kind of put some stretch goals out there, or what happens if we see the market declining for some reason. We can put out there a scenario of worst case, if you will, and talk about it. If you can take care of that and you have good planning for that worst case, or maybe not absolute worst, but you know what I mean, then you're going to reduce a lot of the anxiety and the what ifs when you're trying to run your company. I think it helps if I know what I'm going to do. If the worst happens, if I've got a plan, I'm going to sleep better at night, and I don't think I'm alone with that. You hope you never have to, but if you know what you'll do or how you'll pivot, you're going to be in a better situation. I've already talked about the risk. We understand as we look at these things, we're going to know what the organization's long-term risks are for different scenarios, and we want to be able to talk about that. And then, just again, the analysis. We're having quicker analysis. These new tools are giving us analysis quicker, better information, streamlined to your company's actual needs, and we're having better conversations this way. So I think that we're here. We can start thinking more strategicking. Like I said before, heads up, not down in the details. We're up, talking about it. That's a better place to be. For me, working in accounting finance my whole career, I can tell you I enjoy that so much more. And for business leaders, that's great. They're not spending as much time looking at past performance as much as how that might impact tomorrow's performance. That's all I have for today. But Brittany, are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you so much, Patricia, for such an incredible presentation. As a reminder, audience members can still enter questions, and we can go ahead and review a few that came through. This first question asks, What recommendations can you make for organizations that are struggling to make successful forecasts and or predictions?
Okay, so I think, let me repeat that. What recommendations can I make for companies struggling to make accurate forecasts, you said, and measure performance?
Yep, forecast and predictions.
Predictions, thank you. Well, first of all, you've got to start with the basics. Do you have the tools in place for you to understand your revenue, your sources of revenue, the timing of revenue, and the cost of sales related to that? That becomes very important, that you understand your gross profit margin rate. And so that might take a little time. Look at all your expenses, take a minute and understand which ones change as revenue goes up and down. Those are your variable, which ones are fixed, that type of thing. You're just going to see it every month. Understanding that, and that's your starting place. That's really, no matter what tool you use, that's kind of it. Data in, if you put garbage in, it'll be garbage out. So you just have to start with absolute accuracy in that, which does actually go back to the very first entry when a transaction is entered in the system. Hopefully it's mostly automatic, from a bank feed, but making sure that it's coded correctly, where we understand if what it's being used for. If it's a subscription, how long does that service last? All of those items. I think it's important to maybe build a small schedule based on every significant expense. You can combine a few, but you have a few areas like staffing, software, certainly sales, marketing. Have a separate conversation on all of those major buckets.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This next question, how do you suggest getting collaboration across functional areas when the culture is more of a silo?
Okay. So this comes into just trying to say, what is the culture of our company? How do we get people to, chime in and give their thoughts and ideas? For me, it starts in, what do you think is possible? What are you seeing? Ask questions rather than doing a budget down where you give everyone, okay, here's your goals. Ask them what they think first. Let them feel like their opinion matters. That's what I think is the best way to improve that culture and get people to trust that you want to know their ideas and thoughts.
Excellent. Thank you, Patricia. It looks like we have time for at least one more question. This is asking, how do you see the FP&A function continuing to evolve over the next couple of years?
Oh, wow. So I see, and we're already starting to see this. I was talking to a new software company recently, and they're building in some AI tools that will it will scan contracts and look at, okay, when should we be recognizing revenue? It'll compare it against AP. So we're going to have a lot of things that's going to take the guesswork out of, detailed agreements. And that's going to help a lot. Like quickly being able to get more and more benchmarking data to help us see where we are in the market. And, I don't see people leaving the picture anytime soon. I don't think robots are going to take over FP&A. They're going to take over the data entry and the errors. They're going to help us with that. But it's just going to be more and more, here's your information. Let's talk about what it means.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again, Patricia. That is all the time we have for audience Q&A. Any questions we did not get to, I'll be sure to follow up with you. But thank you again for such an excellent keynote presentation. I also want to thank everyone who joined us today for this session. This session, along with all of today's content, will be made available on demand following the event. Thank you again, Patricia.
Thank you. Thank you so much.